Topping today's news, the Prime Minister shares details on that $500 million loan from the IDB. The official opposition says the government spending is out of control. The Davis administration gearing up its supporters to win a second term in office, and the removal of derelict vehicles begin in the inner city. Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Jarino Saunders. This is your JCN Evening News, and it is a pleasure to have you join us. On Wednesday, the Minister of Finance, Prime Minister Philip Davis, revealed details of the government's $500 million foreign currency loan from the Inter-American Development Bank, which has been a subject of controversy questioned by the opposition. During the mid-year budget statement, the Prime Minister shared the government's plans to utilize the policy-based guarantee loan, the largest debt for climate swap loan in the region to date. The Prime Minister says the government is committing to policy reform this budget year to meet those loan requirements.
As is typical with IDB policy-based instruments, the $400 million in aggregate guarantees will support a matrix of specific governmental policy reforms and institutional changes. In this case, reinforcing our commitment to sound environmental governance for sustainability and biodiversity protection, and the institutional capacities to manage conservation and sustainability financing, and improving the Bahamas' debt management institutional framework and capacities.
The Prime Minister is also revealing the government's environmental objectives, a multi-ministerial plan for tackling the country's environmental commitments.
Among the environmental governance objectives are commitments to measure the management effectiveness of existing marine protected areas and complete marine spatial plans. The government also pledges to strengthen the institutional capabilities of the Ministry of the Environment and the Ministry of Agriculture and Marine Resources, including the development of curricula, content of core courses for the blue economy as analysis and roadmap for strengthening the governance of the Bahamas' Protected Area Fund and ensuring the finalization of other climate change-related legislative initiatives.
On January 12th, the government announced the loan, which represents an offer of debt relief in exchange for commitments to invest in green initiatives. Prime Minister Philip Davis says in the wake of the loan, debt management remains at the forefront of the government's policy activities. Following the Prime Minister's mid-year budget communication, where he revealed that at the midpoint of the current fiscal budget, the government exceeded its deficit forecasted by some $127.6 million. During a press conference immediately after the House sitting, opposition leader Michael Pintard says the Davis administration is out of control when it comes to spending the people's money.
The Prime Minister outlined today that they exceeded the fiscal year budget target by $258 million, which is $127 million more than the full 12-month projected $131.5 million. We believe that one of the things the Prime Minister must do is that he must take immediate corrective steps to curb the wasteful and extravagant spending that he has been engaged in over the course of the last 6 months.
Mr. Pintard said the Free National Movement will not support any tax measures that will see more revenue in the hands of a wasteful government until the Davis administration shows that it is willing and capable of managing the people's money properly.
What we are saying is that the government, because of its tremendous spending, without the requisite revenue to offset it, that they are creating, we believe, the potential for real hardships on the backs of Bahamians. Because if you are spending far more than you know you're going to earn, you have to figure out where you're going to get that money from.
Mr. Pintard says the opposition is afraid the deficit will increase even further because the government has no real plans to grow the economy. Financial Secretary Simon Wilson is defending the almost $1.5 million increase in the budget for travel in the Office of the Prime Minister for the fiscal year 2023-2024. In his mid-year budget statement, the Prime Minister revealed that the government has now budgeted over $2 million for travel for the upcoming fiscal year compared to the $560,000 initially budgeted for travel. At the Office of the Prime Minister's press briefing today, Mr. Wilson clarifies the reasons behind the increase in the Office of the Prime Minister's travel budget.
Issues the increased comparison to what? The comparison has unfortunately been to the COVID period, where there was little or no travel. The reality is the travel is not extraordinary. Right? These are international meetings that we are required to attend to protect the interests of the country. In the case of the Ministry of Finance, the Minister of Finance or a political representative is required at least 10 meetings a year. Required. It's not optional. So if you can imagine a Ministry of Finance, we have small Ministry of Finance, but you're required to be at your IMF meetings, you're required to be at your IDB meetings, you're required to be at your CDB meetings. This is outside of the meetings required by the technical officials.
Director of Communications in the Office of the Prime Minister, Latrey Ramming, further clarified the requirements of international meetings and conferences and why the Prime Minister has to attend.
When the Ministry of Foreign Affairs receive a request for travel for a heads of government meeting, the relevant host country will send over a brief overview of the agenda. The agenda will speak specifically to the kind of representation that is required. So, for example, they would say country head plus foreign minister. So in some instances where there's a technical level, technical representatives are required to go. But the only one person could, in some instances, you can't even use Minister of Foreign Affairs. So when you see the Prime Minister do make a decision to travel anywhere, it's because the meeting agenda requires his attendance, particularly at a head of government level, or a CARICOM level, or at COP.
The Prime Minister has faced much criticism over his frequent travels, but Ramming made sure to highlight that the government's recent success of having the Bahamas removed from the European Union's financial blacklist is partly due to attending international meetings. And finally, in this segment, ever since the Progressive Liberal Party won the general election in September of 2021, Party Chairman Fred Mitchell has echoed the statement that the Davis administration needs at least 2 terms to accomplish all that has been promised in its blueprint for change. On Wednesday night, Prime Minister Philip Davis, while speaking at the Carmichael constituency branch meeting, also made the call for voters to give his administration a second term. He says the FNM is waiting in the wings for power because they believe the Bahamian people will continue to change governments every 5 years. He said the opposition couldn't be more wrong.
So let's get straight to the point. We're here because we have got a job to do. And that job is to keep pushing the Bahamas forward. The PLP is the only party that can deliver the big changes our country needs. I tell you so let's lay it out plain. Let's lay it out simple. When we look at what we have achieved compared to the FNM, the difference is night and day.
Prime Minister Davis spoke on a number of topics, including housing, again reminding of his administration's aggressive approach to affordable homes.
We have built more homes in less than 3 years than they did in their whole term last term. Why? Because we in the PLP consider housing to be a basic right.
The Prime Minister says if the PLP continues to make good on its promises and stay united as a party, there is no doubt in his mind that the Bahamian people will return his administration for a second term. He encouraged the PLP party branches to get ready for battle. We'll take a break here. We'll be right back after these commercials.